ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदम् माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। In this 49th session on Chāndogya Upanishad, we are going to take a look at the sixth khanda, the sixth section of the 8th chapter of this Chāndogya Upanishad from Samaveda. As we have said several times, from the 7th section, we will be having the main story and the central teachings of this chapter, Prajapati being approached by Indra and Virochan. So what we will see in this session is the section just preceding the beginning of that story. In this sixth khanda, there is some mention once more of the soul leaving the body when the so-called death takes place. But for us, the students of Moksha Shastra, more than this rebirth and the process of the soul's journey and other topics, what is of interest is the greatest question, who am I? We are here to answer or find an answer to who am I? So in that context, this khanda also gives to us actually a certain model. There is a mention of nadis in this sixth section of 8th chapter. In fact, this khanda ends with a mantra which is exactly what we had seen in Upanishad. Elsewhere, if not in this series on the YouTube, Upanishad, many of us, almost all of us have studied. In the Upanishad, towards the end of the Upanishad, that is second chapter, third valli, sixth mantra, you have a mention of primarily 101 nadis, and of them there is a certain principal nadi that goes all the way till the head and makes way for the pranic energy to leave from that spot in the head. We will take that mantra again, but to give you a certain backdrop, that mantra, which is number 6, in the third valli of the second chapter, is also number 6, sixth mantra in this sixth khanda of the 8th chapter. Shatam chaika cha hridayasya nadhyah tasam murdhanam abhinisrataika tayordhvam ayan amritatvam eti vishwang anya utkramane bhavanti goes the sixth mantra here. Shatam cha ekacha, 101 nadis. I am fond of putting it this way. A nadi in such scriptures is neither the blood vessel carrying blood nor the nerves of the neural network carrying signals from the brain or to the brain. So they are neither nerves nor arteries or veins, though Dr. Radhakrishnan takes the liberty of translating nadi as arteries from the heart. But nadis are certainly different from the arteries and the veins that modern anatomy, modern medical science talks about. But Radhakrishnan is all right for he did not perhaps want to use a new word, so he uses the word arteries to translate nadi. Nadyaha is plural. Nadi, Nadyau, Nadyaha. Like Nadi Shabda. Nadi, Nadyau, Nadyaha. Shatam cha eka cha hridayasya Nadyaha. The Upanishad, Kata as well as Chāndogya does use the word hridaya. That further emboldens Dr. Radhakrishnan to say arteries from the heart, hridaya. But we would say the context is not of either blood or of signals from or to the brain. The context is of subtle, invisible pranic energy. And the mantra says, Tasam Murdhanam Abhinisrataika. There is one among these 101 which is going towards the Murdha head, and one, whoever, Sadhaka or Sadhika, whose pranic energy rises all the way up to the head through that primary principal nadi, Amritatvam eti, gets liberated. That is a sort of Yoga Shastra description of liberation, where that most principal nadi is no other than Sushumna. The word Sushumna does not come either in Katha Upanishad or here in our Chāndogya Upanishad, but elsewhere it is called Sushumna, then two others, Ida and Pingala, and then another 100, and another 72, 7200, 72,000. Many numbers are mentioned. These numbers are not to be given too much importance. So, what is the idea of this section talking about nadis? From the Moksha Shastra point of view, and to make matters simple, really, it is all about a certain adhyaropa and then a certain apavada leading to the beholding of the absolute truth. Adhyaropa is deliberate superimposition, which means deliberately, knowingly, the Shastras, which are very compassionate, give to us a certain setting. That setting is not true from a higher point of view or from the highest point of view, but temporarily certain setting, certain arrangement is talked about. And if you take that literally, it may seem that the Atma which we are talking about as though comes and goes, rises and falls, changes, becomes bigger, becomes smaller and whatnot. But upon gaining greater understanding of the Vedanta, we realize all that was a certain warm-up, certain preparation, certain paving the way to the clearest insight where the Atma does not go, does not come, does not rise, does not fall, does not grow, does not decay. Nothing happens. Even the idea of going from waking to dream to deep sleep and then coming back to dream and then coming back to waking, etc., is all adhyaro. The pure self does not go. You and I are the pure self. Therefore, on a higher plane, to talk about our going to dream is a wrong language. I don't go to dream. I don't go to deep sleep. I am. I am aware. And I myself appear as the entire waking state. And thanks to spiritual ignorance, I mistake one personality to be myself. And therefore, leave alone going from waking to dream to deep sleep. Another language employed sometimes that I am the substrate and waking, dream, and deep sleep appear and disappear upon me, like the cinema screen upon which a movie is projected, is also not all that great, not all that precise, not all that correct. For if I am the substrate, adhisthana, and waking appears upon me, of what stuff is waking made? Of what substance is waking made? Where did this waking which appears upon the substrate come from? Would it not mean accepting or admitting a certain duality, adhisthana and some superimposition? There are two. Therefore, teachers like Swami Satchidanandendra Saraswati emphasize that it is rather right to say, I, the pure self, appear. I myself, every bit of the dream, and so every bit of waking is I myself. I am not the substrate separate from what appears upon it. I am talking about the three states, Jagra, Swapna, Sushupti, because this Khanda does get into the three states. Tisraha Avastaha, as we call them, three avasthas. Therefore, from once more the Moksha Shastra point of view, it is a little more of warming up in the Adhyaropita Vyavastha. Mind you, Adhyaropa is what Shastra does. Adhyasa is what has happened at the hands of the Jiva. And the Jiva himself is part of that Adhyasa. Jiva doesn't stand separate from Brahma or Atma or whatever, God, Ishvara, etc., and then say, let me go into error. In the so-called error, the Jiva is included. Therefore, one needs to have a very open mind. One should not go by ordinary models where the person who commits an error is other than the error. The man who imagines a snake upon the rope is neither the rope nor the snake. See that? The man who sees a rope but mistakes it to be the snake is neither the rope nor the snake. But in the case of this adhyasa, about which a while ago I said, a minute ago I said, the jiva creates adhyasa. Jiva has adhyasa. So is jiva over here and then adhyasa happens to him? Oh no, that is ordinary, childish thinking. There is adhyasa, and in this adhyasa, jiva is part. Therefore, we have talked about it at many places in the Gita Bhashya on chapter 13. Kasya avidya, who has ignorance? Yasya samshayaha tasya is said. That is the answer. The one who is asking has avidya. If one says the jiva has avidya, Brahma cannot have. So Brahma is here, ever free, ever pure, and jiva is here, which gets this avidya, would be a childish model. Where there is adhyasa, the jiva is part of it. And when the adhyasa leaves, the error ends, jiva bhava right away ends. There is no jiva to stand and celebrate. Just till yesterday I had adhyasa. I am free from now, free from it now. There is no such thing. All right. So there is this mantra. We are going to see especially just one mantra, the third mantra of the sixth section of this eighth chapter of Chāndogya Upanishad. But before that, let's take a quick look at the title slide for this particular 49 class on Chāndogya Upanishad. In this title slide, we talk about that light entering into all the nadis, light filling the nadis, the light overwhelming everything. Let's see. You must be now able to see the title slide. Class 49, Chāndogya Upanishad, Friday, May 26, 2023. The title is Entering Channels. Nadis are called arteries by Dr. Radhakrishnan, but he also uses the word channels. Channels, pathways, conduits, ways, there can be many such words. So let's use the Sanskrit word itself, nadi. Nadi is a subtle path as though having a tubular structure, though there is nothing physical about it. And through those tubular pathways, pranic energy flows. It is in that path that the flow of energy could be impure or pure. Therefore, we talk about Nadi Shuddhi. When you pray, when you do seva, when you inquire, when you study Vedanta, and in Yoga Shastra, when you do certain pranayamas, one of them is called Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama. This Anuloma Viloma, Atwa Anapana. It's called Anapana. Ana plus Apana becomes Anapana. Now don't mistake it for Ana or Pana. Panaka is a drink, you see. Oh, come and drink. It has nothing to do with Pana. Annapana. Anna is what you eat, Pana is what you drink somewhere else. But here it is Anapana is Ana and Apana. Breathing in and breathing out. Prana and Apana. So Anapana, a very popular pranayama, is also called Nadi Shuddhi. You and I do it, it cleans the inner energy. Therefore, the title slide talks about entering channels, obtaining light. Now, to make matters simple, but at the same time, to throw some light which can be of great help to us in sadhana, I would draw a parallel. In Ramana Gita, which is the answers Sri Ramana Maharshi gave to a number of questions by several students of his, unlike Srimad Bhagavad Gita, where there is one questioner, Arjuna, and one teacher who answers Sri Krishna. In Ramana Gita, there are 8 or 9 questioners, including a lady, and the teacher who replies is one, Sri Ramana Maharshi. In one of the chapters, it is said, think of the pure self, Atma, to be like the sun. And think of mind, Manaha, to be like the moon. The moon, today we are all very clear, has no light of its own. The moon simply reflects the light of the sun. And look, a lot of poets have praised moonlight. Moonlight has caught the fancy of poets. And there is a joke also. In a primary school, when the teacher asked the students, who is more valuable, the sun or the moon? A little boy got up and said, of course, the moon. And when the teacher asked, why do you value moon more? The boy said, Of what use is the sun? He comes during daytime when anyhow there is a lot of light. At night when it is all so dark, it is the moon who comes and gives us that pleasing moonlight. So for humor that passes, but then we know that at night when the sun is not shining directly upon the earth or that part of the earth where you and I live, even at that time, it is the sun only who is reflected by the moon. Maharshi Ramana takes that analogy and throws light on this Atma Vidya, Adhyatma Vidya, all that our mind does, including feeling sad, depressed, lonely, dejected, frustrated, and whatever. All that is made possible by that one light of the Atma. Atma itself is everything. Atma is good, Atma is bad. Atma is high, Atma is low. Atma is far, Atma is near. You name it, Atma eva asti. Sarvam Atmana eva prakati bhavaha. It's an expression of the Atma. The sun alone gives light to the earth during the day and during the night. During night, indirectly. Therefore, in waking and dream, when our mind is operating, mind is active, it is the light of Atma that is shining through the mind, through the senses, and so on. Therefore, Upanishads have always called the pure self the light of all lights. Jyotishamapi tajyotihi, says Gita, Bhagavad Gita. Jyotishamapi tajyotihi tamasah paramuchyate jnanam jneyam jnanagamyam Radi Sarvasya Vishtitam, chapter 13. So in this item slide, we talk about entering the channels of obtaining light. Go for the sun and moon analogy. Sunlight enters the earth, enters the moon, and then upon being reflected, illumines the earth at night. Now go a step further. What it means is when you dismiss adhyaropa, you dismiss the deliberate superimposition of many conceptual models presented by the scriptures. We said a while ago, Adhyasa is of the Jiva, by the Jiva, on the Jiva, in the Jiva, and Jiva himself is a part of that Adhyasa, whereas Adhyaropa is by Shastra. Shastra is kind to present an Adhyaropa, and when this Jiva who is caught in Adhyasa pays heed to, pays attention to, listens to the Adhyaropa, studies the Adhyaropa, begins to appreciate the Adhyaropa. Wow, this makes sense. This is so nice. This is so beautiful. I like this Vedanta. He or she says, going further and further, Apavada begins. Everything is dismantled. So when you dismantle, the sun and the sun only remains. There is no business of entering anywhere or nothing like beams of light returning to the source. From the source, beams of light go and fill the arteries, fill this place, fill that place. They make the eyes see, they make the ears hear, they make the nose smell, all that is fine. Good, nice poetry. And one can enjoy the concepts. And then when one goes into deep sleep, in a manner of saying, all that light which was as though lent to indriyas, to manas, to buddhi, etc., it is as though withdrawn. All of that goes back to the pure self. From the pure self, light goes and enters our upadhis, And then from the upadhis, body, mind, intellect, and so on, the light returns to the source. So this kind of two-way movement is talked about. But that is adhyaropa. There are no two for a two-way movement to take place. In this section, the first mantra actually talks about ataya eta hridayasya nadyah taha pingalasya animnah ishtanti, etc. The reference to nadis, reference to certain flow in them, which are reddish brown, which are blue sometimes, which are yellow sometimes, which are red sometimes, and all that. White sometimes. Shuklasya, Neelasya, Pitasya, Lohitasya, Pingalasya. Five colors are mentioned. All this is part of Adhyaropa. In this manifest universe, which can puzzle a jiva, Shastras come along and say, look, you must understand what is happening. Some sense is brought into what otherwise was appearing nonsensical. What's happening here? I don't know what this is. All this puzzles me, all this baffles me, all this confounds me, confuses me, says the Jiva. Shastra says it's not all that confusing as you imagine. Swami Chinmayanand used to say this universe is not a chaos, it is a cosmos. In a manner of saying, with his wit and wisdom, with his own play of words, he would enthrall his audience and they would see, yeah, till now I thought this universe, this life, this creation is a chaos, a chaotic life. What a chaotic life I have been living, man thinks, or a lady thinks. Man marries, thinking everything will be so beautiful after my marriage. For a while it may look beautiful. Later on, where have I arrived? Some people don't marry, they run and join some ashrams and they think once I'm in the ashram, everything will be so good. After a while, they also take their hand to their head and say, where have I arrived? This ashram has its own power play. There is some politics here. There are people who should not be in ashram at all, that they have come and they are controlling the ashram. Oh, in some way or the other, the story of humanity is the same. It looks chaotic. Even those who build ashrams, who run ashrams, who praise ashrams, who then stand for ashrams, in a way are so perplexed and so tired. Then there are certain mystics who negate, dismiss, who say no institution can help you. You are the light of yourself. Be a light unto yourself. They say such things. So it's a different language. And some people tired of ashrams go and follow. No, those speakers say don't follow us. But these people go. So, yeah, I like this teacher who says don't follow me. So far I followed the teacher who said follow me. Nowadays I am following the teacher who says don't follow. You are following either. Okay. So you follow somebody who says don't follow anyone, including me. But after a while the hand goes to the head. Oh, where have I arrived? Perhaps I was far better in those traditional ashrams. This new place, which talks about freedom, freedom from all concepts, has only enmeshed me in new concepts. Shiva Shiva, one says. So we say it is not a chaos. There are two things which are required now. First, follow the teachings of a competent teacher without looking left or right. Take a Sadguru and be with his teachings. By saying follow, we don't mean some kind of selling off your intelligence. No, Vedanta allows you to exercise your intelligence. But Vedanta says, don't be fickle, don't go wayward, don't just roam about, don't just float on the surface, don't go on changing your plans, don't live a life of no self-control. That is what Vedanta asks. Vedanta never says, shut up your mouth, don't talk. Accept whatever the Guru says without thinking. If the Guru says fire is cold on every Saturday in this world, don't say, yeah, fire, I think on Saturdays the fire is cold. Monday to Friday and then Sunday fire is hot. Yeah. No. Adi Shankara says, even if the Vedas say fire is cold, don't accept it. But it's a Vedic statement. Find out, there may be a deeper meaning. There may be a implied meaning, or the Vedic portion, which if at all there is such portion, which talks where fire is cold, might be in that context talking about foolish people. Foolish people say fire is cold. Read the whole sentence, then you will understand. So two things that need to be done to complete that digression. One is, are you studying the right material from a competent source? Secondly, very important, if not more important, are you living a life of alertness, a life of broad-mindedness, a life of true discipline, not the narrow idea of discipline. True discipline is ever ready to learn, ever ready to bridge the gap with what you believe and what you do. Don't knowingly deceive yourself. Don't live in self-deception. So there is a certain care that you and I have to take about how we live. Then the first point was, your source should be very authentic. So the first mantra talks about very many fluids flowing through the nadis, and those different colors, white or blue or yellow or red or reddish brown, etc., imply various combinations of sattva, rajas, tamas as we use the language elsewhere. And I must quickly mention what is said in the second mantra, though our slide will focus on the third mantra. The second mantra gives a beautiful, simple analogy. Imagine two villages. One village is where you are standing, and there is another village. Shankaracharya says, Ekaha gramaha sannihitaha, anyaha gramaha viprakrishtaha, far. Between this village that is near, or where you are standing, and the village that is far, ubhau gramau gacchati, there goes a road, wide, good road, mahapataha, atataha, spread and going. Ubhau gramau gacchati, imam gramam cha, amum gramam cha. If you go from here, you go to that village. And after that, if you walk back on the same wide road, you come to this imam and amum, this and that. Imam gramam cha, amum gramam cha. And then, okay, giving that wide, well-built, good road, mahapataha, between two villages, the mantra comes to the central point. So is the case between Aditya, the sun, the source, the sun literally and the sun figuratively. Figuratively meaning the sun may represent the God principle. And in the Gayatri mantra you say, Saviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Savituhu. can mean the sun that we see in the sky, but on a higher plane of interpretation, Savita is Suyate, that which brings forth everything, Godhood, the Godhead. From the Godhead, everything. Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayanti. Right? That truth from which everything comes, that in which everything stays, and after a while, that into which everything goes. Tad Brahma, Tad Vijidnasasva, says Varuna to his son Bhrigu, Taittiriya Upanishad, based on which the second sutra in Brahma Sutras is given. Janma adi asya yata, janma adyasya yata. So, Savita can mean that Brahma. Savita can mean Surya in contrast to Chandra, Taraka, Agni, and so on. Here too, Aditya Shabda is used. And it is said, just as a wide road goes from village 1 to village 2 and back to village 1, energies or forms of light, forms of intelligence, forms of vitality go from the created world into Aditya and from Aditya into the created world. In waking and dream, so many of us are full of energy. We are vivacious. We are moving about, singing, dancing, writing, reading, struggling, doing. Oh, how much activity. Where did we get all that energy from? Aditya. And when we go to deep sleep, all that was as though invested. All creation was infused with the energy. All that goes back to Aditya. Aditya alone is. During the day, the sun is shining. During night, sun's light is reflected through the moon. The next day again, the sun directly shines. So through several analogies, we come to the central teaching. There is the Brahman, there is the truth even now at this moment also. Yap pashyati sapashyati. He who sees, sees. He who does not, does not. So, if your eyes are opened by Vedantic teaching, even now, not after death, you see Brahma eva asti. So, the Mahapataha is also a good, nice example. Now we come to the second and last slide of this presentation, where the third mantra is given in full. Already I touched upon the sixth mantra, Chatam cha ekacha nadya. But here, in the second slide, which we will enter in a moment, here I am seeing the first slide, title slide. We go to the second slide, where the complete mantra, from which couple of words were taken to make this title slide. Tadyatra etat suptaha. The reference is to Sushupti. This mantra is talking about Sushupti. So, in this Chāndogya Upanishad, the third mantra of the sixth section in the 8th chapter is giving us precious insight into Sushupti. Nothing new really. This has come in 6th chapter. In Uddalaka, not Uddalaka, what's this? Shvetaketu and Uddalaka. Shvetaketu is the student. There was quite a bit of discussion of Samprasada. The word comes here too. Tadyatra etat suptaha samastaha samprasannaha. Prasanna itself means very pleased and serene. Samprasanna. Samyak prasanna. In deep sleep, there is such prasannata in everyone. Therefore, the Shastra says we are one with the pure self. Tadyatra etat suptaha samastaha. Moment there is this waking and dream, things are divided, things are fragmented, things are scattered, things are not brought together. In deep sleep, it is as though everything is brought together. Samastaha, samprasannaha, suptaha. And to make it very clear clearly that we are not talking about dream. Dream is not the topic here in this third mantra. It is said, Swapnam na vijanati. One doesn't see any dream. Asutada nadishu sripto bhavati. Sriptaha means entered. So, in deep sleep, it is as though all the energy has entered into the channels but not expressing in any manner. That is implied. It is made clear by the next words. Tam na kaschana papma sprashati. No sin touches the one in this deep sleep state. There is no duality at all. Tejasahi tada sampanno. Then one is filled with light. He has obtained the light of the sun. So, this is a very significant mantra. Actually, we have talked about it quite a number of places. However, it is worthwhile making a couple of comments. So, what was said in chapter 6, Sata Sampanna. There was an expression in chapter 6, Shweta Ketu and his father, that discussion. Sata Sampanna, talking about Sushupti. Shankaracharya also, in his commentary on this third mantra, says, Tam Sata Sampannam. Not said in this mantra, but 6th chapter used that expression. Sata Sampanna means you are completely with the pure self with no trace of anything else. Tam Sata Sampannam na kaschana kaschidapi dharma adharma rupaha papma sprashati. From a higher point of view, the so-called punya also is papa only. Papa, sin, is like being in an iron cage. Punya means being attached to the so-called good works, is like being in a gold cage. Swarupa avastitatva tada atmana. Shankara Bhashya says about Sushupti, Swarupa avastitatva. One is in one's Swarupa during deep sleep. Then what is all this? The light goes into the nadis, or everything else as though folded up. So teachers like SSS, Swami Satchidananda Saraswati say, even if the Bhashya says such sentences, it is to be taken as Adhyaropa. So where you draw the line, what is Adhyaropa? What is truth as it is? The purest truth, unadulterated truth. What is the pure truth and what is truth encased in Adhyaropa is an area of much debate. Shankara says, Swarupa avastitatva tada atmanaha. Actually, the word tada, also someone may question. Adi Shankara says tada, then. That means he has accepted time. He has put deep sleep in a window of time. Before that, in a previous window of time, there was dream. Before that, in another window of time, there was waking. Like they say, T1 to T2, I was awake. T2 to T3, T1, T2, etc. points of time. T2 to T3, I was in dream. Then T3 to T4, I was in deep sleep and it was so blissful, yes. Then T3 to T4 or T4 to T5, again I came back. So we are so conditioned to think of ourselves as someone going from one to another. And we are so conditioned to think time is unquestionably real. That is shaken at its roots by certain insightful commentators or teachers of Shankara Bhashya. To read quickly a couple of lines. Dehendriya Vishishtam is Sukadukka Karya Pradhanena Papma Sprashati. Once we are together with Deha and Indriya, then sin also is valid, merit also is valid. But in deep sleep, against Bhashya Vakya, Natu Satsampannam Swarupa Avastam Kaschidapi Papma Sprashtum Utsahate. No sin can touch one who has nothing to do with any body, gross body or subtle body or causal body. There is causal body is questioned in these areas, etc. And then to say a little more, Shankaracharya himself, to make matters a bit easy for Madhyama Adhikaris, himself does go to the Adhyaropa. 3 lines down in this very Bhashya portion, he says, since Brahma Vidya has not burnt away the seeds of ignorance, one again goes to waking and dream. Avidya kama karma bijasya Brahma Vidya hutasha daha nimittam iti avochama shashte eva. He makes a reference to the 6th chapter. So this has led to a great debate where Adhyaropa ends and where Apavada, that is pointing to the pure truth begins. All right, without getting into those controversies, I would say that this chapter or this section 6, in its own way, provokes thinking, makes us reflect once more. Have we taken an immature, childish, easy stand, easy, quickly? This idea of some certain ideas of avastatraya are easy. You embrace it and then you are comfortable in that. You don't want anybody to disturb it. Or are we open to a deeper interpretation? So having said this, the last 3 mantras talk about death. To just say just 2 or 3 sentences, these things have come elsewhere. When somebody is dying, he becomes so weak. Ata yatra etat abalimanam. Balimana means strong. Abalimanam nitaha. Then his relatives ask, Janasi mam, do you know me? Do you recognize me? Hello, uncle, auntie, how are you? Do you know who has come to see you? All that we do. Well, if the pranas are in his body, he recognizes, may not respond, but he sees them. But when the pranas leave, that's the 5th mantra. Ata yatra etad asmat sharirat utkramati. Ata etairev rashmibhi urdhvamakramate saha om itiva odva miyate. So some details. As you know, Bhagavad Gita also talks about the process of dying in chapter 8, especially, and a little bit elsewhere also. So, concentrating on the middle of the eyebrows, saying Om or listening to the sound of Om, such descriptions come. For all of that, for a lot that is said in Gita, you can see the Upanishads are the source. Therefore, Sarva Upanishado Gavaha, Dugdha Gopala Nandanaha, Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta, Dugdam Gita Amritam Mahat is said. And then the section ends with what I already chanted, the mantra that is in Kathopanishad also. शतं चैका च हृदयस्य नाट्यस्तासां मूर्धानमभिनिसृतैका तयोर्ध्वमायन्नमृतत्वमेति विश्वं अन्या उत्क्रमणे भवन्ति. We already talked about. So summarily, there is the absolute oneness, then there is the manifold creation. The second is an appearance. The first one, the former, is the truth. This section also talks about going back and forth. Even those two villages are like that. One village is the asamyak darshan. The other village is samyak darshan. So darshan, it is all a matter of darshan, no real going. You see properly or you don't see properly. And these are wide apart. But Upanishad says, Duramete viparite vishuchi. They are far apart. There is a mantra starting like Om Namah Shivaya. Om Shivaya.